In this video, we're going to look at some options for formatting or customizing a chart. We don't have a chart yet, so we're going to quickly create the one that we looked at in our last video. So select the data, including the data on row 2 here, because we need wins and losses to appear in our legend. And then go to the Insert tab, and we're going to go over here to a column chart, and we're going to do a 2D clustered column chart. Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to move the chart to another sheet. Click on the Move Chart button. By the way, whenever you select a chart, you get two tabs up here. One called Chart Design, one called Format. And we're not going to look at the Format one, but we will look at the things on the Chart Design. The stuff on the Format tab really doesn't have that much to do with the chart itself. These options are available for just about anything in Excel where you want to do text. So we're just going to take a look at the Chart Design tab. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move it to a new sheet. So click on Move Chart. And we want it to go to a new sheet. And I'm just going to leave it as Chart 1. You can type in any name you want to there. And then click on OK. So we're on a new worksheet here. The only real advantage of doing this is that it's bigger. You don't have any data cluttering up the background. If you want that data to be there, then just leave it on the same sheet that the data was on. But we're going to put it on a separate sheet here, and then now we're going to take a look at some of the options. So this is our default chart. It puts in, by default, it puts in a legend down here at the bottom. It puts in a chart title up here at the top. It does some numbers on the vertical axis, and it puts some text here on the horizontal axis, and it draws the bars. Okay, and we've got a pretty good chart right there. Obviously, we would need to put a title in, but there is all kinds of changes that we can make or enhancements we can make to our chart. And we're on the Chart Design tab here, and we're going to start over here on the left side with Add a Chart Element. Okay, so we've got elements like axes, and they are currently visible, and if I remove them, you see now I'm losing my team names. If I pause over this one and remove it, so you don't want to get rid of that. And there's more options here on every single one. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. We've got an option for axis titles. If I want to turn on horizontal, then axis title appears down here below Michigan State, and I can change that, to like team name or something like that. Vertical. Yeah, now you see axis title appear on the left side. We can change our chart title. We can have none. We can have it above the chart where it is by default, or we can have it actually overlaid on top of the chart rather than above the chart. We can do data labels, and this actually puts the numbers there. This is the numbers on the orange bars are pretty easy to read. They're black by default, but the black on the blue bars are really hard. Inside at the base is still hard. Outside end is where you can easily read them. You can do data callouts if you want to. It's starting to look kind of cluttered, I think, when you do that. And then there's more options. Most of the time, you probably do not need to put numbers on the tops of the bars. There's really only one reason for creating a chart in the first place, and that is to take your rows and columns of numbers and make them easy to read. And so if you're doing that, you shouldn't have to put the numbers in there, although there may be some times when you feel like you need to do that. The data table, if I pause the mouse over this one, it'll put the actual table down at the bottom. And again, I've got the same argument against doing that I had for putting the numbers at the top. The whole idea here is to create a picture of your data that easily conveys the data. It's got error bars. We're not going to worry about error bars. Grid lines. We get horizontal grid lines by default. If I pause the mouse over it, it toggles it and turns it off. If I want vertical, I can do that. I don't think you want that most of the time. You can do some minor horizontal lines. This may be hard to see on the video, but when I pause the mouse over it, I do get some lighter gray lines between the darker lines that are currently there. You can do some more vertical lines that are lighter, and those may be hard to see as well. The legend, we've got 4 different places for where to put the legend. As I do the live preview here, you see it moving around the edges of the chart. and we're not going to worry about a trend line. So those are elements that can be added. There's another way to do that that we'll look at in a minute. There's also a quick layout here that has 11 options, and if you pause the mouse over each one of these, what this is it's a combination of some of the different features or elements and formatting that you can apply to your chart. Notice when I do this, the numbers on the vertical axis are gone, but my legend is now up at the top, and I've got numbers on the top of each bar. If I go to this one, it looks like it makes my numbers a little fatter. It puts a legend down at the bottom. And this one looks like the bars are even fatter. So as I do each one of these, I get a live preview. If you see something that has all of the elements that you want in it, then you can just go ahead and click on it. And it's basically what it's doing is it's taking some of these elements over here from our add chart element, and it's putting different combinations of these in to a layout for your chart. You can also change the colors of your chart. We've got 4 colorful options up here, and the colors get chosen from the left. So my first bar is going to be blue, my second bar is going to be orange. If I had a third bar, it would be gray, and so on. There's another color palette here. If I click on, oops, just pause over it, I think we can get a live preview. So the first one is still blue, but the second bar is gray, so they change from orange to gray. If I pause over this one, now my first bar is orange, my second one is yellow, and if I pause over this one, I get green and blue. Below that, there are a bunch of monochromatic options, and I recommend staying away from these because monochromatic, basically what it means is it means one color. And so you're getting different shades of the same color. And it looks like what they're doing here is they're taking the first one, since we've only got 2 bars, they're taking the first one and the last one, which is a good thing because there's more contrast. But if we had 6 different bars here, it'd be really hard to tell, color 1 from color 2 here on the bar. And the same thing with every single one of these all the way down. They're basically all one color. And if they're all one color, that's just going to make your chart hard to read. So I would stay away from these completely. And there's also a way you can customize your own colors. You don't have to go with stuff here if you don't want to. Okay, so that takes care of changing the colors. Then we got chart styles, and this will do a live preview for me as well. And I'm just going to pause the mouse over each one of these. So it changes the appearance of your chart. It doesn't move anything around. My title is always there at the top. My team names are at the bottom. The wins and losses are down at the bottom, the legend. But it does change the way that the chart looks. And if I click on the More button, this little down arrow with a little hash mark above it, I get some more options here, and I can pause the mouse over those. And if there's something there that I like, then I can go ahead and select it. One warning, if you are going to be displaying this online somewhere and it's never going to be printed out, the black ones are fine. If you think that's a real easy to read chart, then go ahead and select it. But if you're going to be printing something out, you really don't want to print out all that black ink. It'll cost a fortune to print out those charts. Okay. We've also got an option here. Let me click off of that. We've got an option to switch our row and column data. And if we do that, then we get something really funny looking. And you know what? I need to go back over here and change my colors, don't I? Let's go back to this one. Okay, so if I say switch the rows and the columns, now what I've got is it's the same data. This is a legitimate chart, I guess, but it's very hard to read. We've got to look down here. Every team has a different color, and every team has 2 bars, one for wins and one for losses. So we got a bunch of win bars over here, a bunch of losses bars over here. And if you look at Iowa, you see it's the kind of a light blue, or medium blue, I guess. Here's a lighter one, and here's a darker one, and a darker one. And that is the wins for Iowa. That's the losses for Iowa over here. Same thing, Ohio State wins, Ohio State losses. So what it's doing is it's taking that data that we had, and instead of considering each column to be a range of data, it is considering each row to be a range of data. And we had 11 teams, I think. So we're going to get 11 different colors, one for each team. And this is definitely not what we want. Okay. There's an option to go back and select your data again if you want to, and we'll talk about this in another video as well. We'll cancel that. You can change the chart type. And these are basically the options that we had when we were creating it in the first place. This does not do a live preview apparently, so we're going to have to click on it, and but it does keep us in the dialog box. So this is 100%, so I'm sorry, this is a stacked column. So we got wins on the bottom and losses above, and you can tell by looking which teams went to a bowl game because their bar is 1 unit higher than all of the others. They got that extra game in. This one is 100% stacked column, so everybody is 100%. That's what we should see for our legend, or not our legend, but for our labels over here on the vertical axis. And so you can't tell that one team may have played more games than another. Also, the breaks in the lines, in the bars, do not come out evenly on one of the grid lines. So this is probably not what you want for this option. We've got pretty much the same thing. This is the equivalent of clustered column, but it's making the bars 3D, and it even rotates a little bit for some reason. And this one does the stacked one, so we got the losses stacked on top. This one does the 100%, but it's 3D. And this one puts the losses behind the wins, which can sometimes make things pretty hard to read. Okay, that is changing the chart type. And now the other thing I want to look at is we've got some options. We had a bunch of options over here for adding chart elements. And every time we clicked on one and picked it, there was also more axis options. And you get more axis options, and it'll appear as a window over here on the right side. I'm going to close that. Another way to get to that stuff is by clicking on the plus sign right here. And you can say, this is basically the same things that we had listed up here. So it's just another way to get to the same things. So I can go to axes, and I can click on that, click on the arrow actually, and then go to more options, and this stuff will appear over here. So when you get that, you can do almost an infinite amount of customizing. You know, we've got, this part's a little hard to figure out, I think. We've got axis options, and underneath it, these are basically tabs, these icons here. So I click on this, and I get some options for colors. I click on this, I get some options for some effects. I click on this, and I get some options for size. I click on this, and I get some options for my axis. Then I've got text options up here, and if I click on that, I've got 3 tabs or buttons underneath it for text fill and outline, text effects, which I don't think you're going to mess with, and text box if you want to add a text box. So a lot of times what you have to do is you have to kind of come over here and you have to kind of hunt around for what it is that you're looking for. And sometimes you not only have to pick what's up here, so let's pick fill color, but then you have to open up some of these down below. And so let's say that I want to change the, well, this is for my axis. I don't want to format the axis. Let's go over here. Once this window appears, you can go over here and you can click on anything on the chart, and it displays what's in the window here to apply to whatever it is that you've selected. So the plot area is the area that's behind the bars here. I've got handles and a line around it. If I click on one of the bars, let's click on a blue bar, and you see a handle appears around every blue bar now. And I can change the color of this from blue to whatever color I want to. Let's make them all red. Okay. And then if I click on one of the orange bars, I can make those one any color that I want to. I'm going to make those green. And it's that easy to change. I've also got the option to, let's click on one of the numbers over here, and now it's format axis. And let's click on down at the bottom, click on the names, and we get format axis for that as well. We click on the legend here, we get options for formatting the legend. If we click on one of the grid lines here, we get options for formatting the grid lines. And I'm not going to go into all of the options. It would take a very long time to go through all of the options. But basically, you know, pick what you want. Get this option window on the right side open. And if it's closed, you know, there's a couple of ways to get to it. Probably the easiest one is just click on plus, pick something. Well, I'm sorry. Click on the arrow and choose more. And it will appear, and then you just click on what you want over here. You can format grid lines, you can format the plot area, you can format the chart area, you can format the title. Notice all these keep changing as I keep clicking on things over here. So I think the main thing you need to know when you're formatting a chart is you probably don't have to do a whole lot. What you get by default is usually pretty good. Obviously you're going to have to go in and change the title most of the time. and you may want to change a few other things. But the way to do it is click on what you want, go over here and start looking around. Click on the tabs. If something is closed here, the arrow is horizontal instead of pointing down, just click on it and start looking for options, and eventually you'll find what it is that you want to change.